Hello and welcome to episode 79 of Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry, and here at Learn, Do, Become, we help people who are drowning in the details of life to create simple systems so we can do what matters most. I can't even tell you how excited I am about today's podcast. It has helped me more than I could even tell you, and I've actually been working on what you're going to hear today in the podcast for the last 3 months. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction, then we're going to jump in and then follow up with me afterwards. I'll be in the outro of the podcast to remind you how you can move forward if you are also excited. The show notes page will be at learndobecome.com/episode 79. So all the links and details will be there. But I wanted to start out with a little story. I grew up kind of an anxious person. I was always very responsible, got stressed a lot. I was very conscientious. I wanted to do really well. And I feel like that was my strength. Being anxious was my strength. The problem is, as I got older and had a family and became an entrepreneur with my husband here at Learn, Do, Become, and then just went through a lot of different challenges throughout my life, it became less and less possible to live and to be able to work in an optimized way while I was overwhelmed and while I was anxious. Now, because I don't handle stress really well, I was able to create our STEP Command Central and our STEP program, Steps to Everyday Productivity, where I help people learn how you deal with all the things like thousands of emails and lists and papers and how you keep your home clean and how you manage your family. And I became really good at that out of necessity. But what I'm about to share with you today is something that has changed my life in one of the most dramatic ways I could ever imagine. Back in November of 2019, I was at a mastermind event. It was like a leadership retreat. And Dr. Don Wood came in as a guest to do a 4-hour session with all of the people there, all entrepreneurs, probably about 30, 35 of us in the room. And he was talking about how we were going to overcome trauma. Now, I was really skeptical, to be honest. I thought, we're here to learn about entrepreneurship. Why are we talking about trauma? And I didn't think I really had a lot of trauma in my life. I mean, there's been hard things, but I didn't think it was one of my main pain points. And I was kind of there to just sit through it, to be honest. What happened was that Dr. Wood came in and explained that a lot of the reasons why we feel anxiety is because there's some trauma from the past that is creating an error message in our brains. And when I heard that, I started thinking, oh my goodness, this is what's happening to me. I wake up in the middle of the night and I replay things that have gone on in my life. I would look in the mirror and I'd replay in my mind some really traumatic things that happened back when I was 11, 12, 13, 14, when I was overweight in junior high. It was really crazy how many things from my past were actually impacting my present. So we went through this 4-hour session, and immediately I could see how he had helped me to take anything traumatic from the past and still enable me to remember it, but he helped me disassociate those feelings of panic and stress that would typically accompany those memories. It was amazing, and we're going to talk about it in the podcast, how he helped me to do that. But then it got even better. He gave me access to his online program and said, go over these audios. You're going to listen to them over the next 28 days. And the audios are going to provide repetition that's going to help your brain to lock these things in and help you to calm your central nervous system and help you actually stop the anxiety at the root. So instead of having to manage anxiety, we're just going to go to the root and we're going to cut it out. Now, when I recorded this podcast, I wasn't there yet. I was still in the initial phases. I wanted to trust him, but I didn't know if it was going to work 100%. So I actually held on to the recording for 3 months because I wanted to actually go through all of the audios. I actually went over them multiple times, and I wanted to be able to come to you and tell you if it worked or not. The most amazing things happened to me. Now, all my problems haven't gone away and life hasn't all of a sudden just become easy, but it has become easier because I'm not feeling like I'm in the middle of that panic anymore like I used to. My mind feels calm. I don't feel stress over anything in the past. I'm learning how to actually disassociate that feeling of anxiety from my need to be productive. And I'm just breathing better. I find I'm not worrying a lot. I'm actually able to focus on the most important tasks. And I feel like I'm just enjoying my life and my family. I used to have meltdowns quite a bit, and I can't even tell you the last time I had one, honestly. I still, if I have a rough day physically or I didn't sleep well, I need to go take a nap or something like that. But I'm not freaking out like I used to. And even though I'm embarrassed to admit I ever freaked out, I did. So today you're going to listen to the interview that I held with Dr. Wood just, I think it was the week after that initial 4-hour session. You're going to hear that. And then come join me at the end and I'll tell you a little bit more. But he does have an amazing program, and we have a link on our show notes page where you can come participate in it as well. It's amazing. Okay, so we'll jump into the recording. I'll talk to you more at the end. I am so excited to welcome Dr. Wood. Thank you so much for being with us here at Learn to Become Radio.
Oh, I'm great. I'm really glad you invited me, April. Thank you.
We are going to have a really powerful talk today, and I am excited for you to help us to learn how to actually enhance our performance, how to get over anxiety, and how to be able to handle our lives better. You've already been helping me a ton just in the few hours that we've spent, as I've learned from you.
Oh, that's great.
But today I'm excited to help our whole Learn, Do, Become community. And so first, can you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and share where you best serve your community and your audience and your clients? I'd love to hear from you, how you explain it.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. So we called our program the Inspired Performance Program because the idea is that everybody has the ability to rise to another level of performance. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the highest level, CEOs, executives, world-class athletes. And, I shared some of those stories. If you go to our website, you'll see. In fact, this weekend I was just talking about, I was playing in a golf tournament with Kyle Schwarber, who's played for the Chicago Cubs. He went through our program. And the idea was to teach him how to stay present and in the moment when he's playing baseball, without his mind filtering through a whole bunch of useless information. So we train our brains to do that. So also playing in our foursome was Tim Burke, who's the world long drive. So he played in our foursome. Awesome. So he was another guy who went through our program. And then, we had a number of people there that had actually gone through our program. And these are world-class athletes and executives. So what I did is I really developed the program after studying how trauma is affecting the way our minds operate in the present. And that was really the key. Once we get the trauma resolved, get the mind to sort of update and reset that information, we stay more present. And that's how we start performing better. So we actually increase the energy, the cellular energy in the body. So that energy is available for focus, performance, strength, whatever you need it for.
Okay, I love this. And essentially, you've already helped me. I didn't even realize that I had trauma or didn't even know how to explain it. And I thought the word trauma kind of felt like, oh, are you just whining and complaining about your past? That's how I thought about it. Like, come on, get over it. If there's something that's hard, just stop worrying about it. But what you helped me to see is that a lot of times this fear that we have, the anxiety, maybe the relationship problems, our responses to things, it's rooted in things that have happened in the past. And if I'm saying it right, when we go back and recall a memory, our body doesn't know the difference between what's happening right now and what's a memory. So we respond with some kind of a panic. Is that how you would explain it?
Yeah. So the survival part of your brain, which we call our subconscious, is always fully present. It's always in the moment. The issue is coming in is when we recall information, say, from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Because it was traumatic, it was stored as basically high definition. Think of a very bright and intense memory. So when the mind recalls that information, it's so bright and intense, the mind thinks there's something happening now. So it's creating a physiological response in your body to start preparing you for fight or flight. But there's nothing happening. It's just an information read. And that's what's creating a lot of the issues for people. Health issues, peace issues,
Yeah.
not ability to stay present and in the moment.
Okay, so for our community here at Learn, Do, Become, a lot of our community members come to us because they are living in some kind of overwhelm. Sometimes it's overwhelm of piles of paper, sometimes it's thousands of emails, sometimes people just have clutter all throughout their homes, or they feel somewhat stuck. And I've noticed from a lot of our community members, they have gone through some really hard things in the past, whether it's something like a spouse who had a heart attack, or a house fire, or abuse, or financial distress, or parents passing away, and just a lot of just hard stuff that's been going on. And because emotionally they're trying to be present to manage all the hard stuff going on, their physical environment and their projects and their tasks and the bills and all the stuff, they don't have the bandwidth to manage all of it. So they just kind of put it off into a pile, like, oh, I'll get to this later.
Right.
Does that bring up any ideas as you're thinking about, okay, well, this is what their brain is doing in the midst of all of that? Or how would you give a little more depth to what's going on?
No, that's a great way to explain it. So we all know of what we call fight or flight. Everybody's sort of heard of that. But there's also something called freeze. Okay. So there's fight, flight, or freeze.
Ooh, okay.
Now, freeze is actually a very good defense mechanism in the animal world. So as I always say, a zebra, right, can't feel fear of a lion unless there's a lion present. Zebras don't remember lions. Zebras don't imagine lions. But if a lion shows up, the zebra knows what to do. Automatically, their nervous system will engage.
Okay.
So one of the things that the nervous system will do is basically say, can we fight the lion? No. Right? Can we run from the lion? Yes. But also, the lion is looking for movement. He's looking for the slowest zebra.
Okay.
So sometimes if you just stay still, right, and freeze, the zebra may not pay attention to you, right? And will be looking for movement, because the lion has something called, we have it as well, reticular activating system. You know how the peripheral vision, you can see something?
Yeah.
Lions are looking for that movement, and they're scanning for movement. So if something's not moving, it tends not to attract their attention. So freeze is actually a very good defense mechanism. Now, it doesn't work so well in our world, right?
No,
but chances are what you are explaining to me sort of sounds like people who have gotten into a freeze mentality, right? That I will just do this later. It's not safe to do it now. We'll do it when it's better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking this could happen in your business, right? Where you just kind of like, let me just stop because I don't want to move forward and cause a problem. And I don't know what to do. I don't want to quit and give up, but I'm just going to kind of like stop. You could do that in your profession. And so I love what you're saying there, but where does the phone come into this though too? Because I think a lot of times what happens is nowadays we turn to Netflix or social media or something that's always streaming as a way to distract ourselves while we freeze. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Again, the mind wants to avoid pain. I mean, that's an obvious survival tool, right? To stay away from pain. So if we're thinking about something that could create pain, which is taking care of something, which generally I can tell you for sure that all the people that you're working with, there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
There's an absolute reason why they're doing what they're doing.
Yes.
Right? And it's coming from an experience that has brought them pain. So if they did something too quickly, or maybe got criticized or lost money or something happened, the mind will then basically say well, let's avoid that and not tackle that particular thing right now. Right? So here's a good example. Right? You have a young man, he's in a gymnasium at school, and there's a school dance. And there's a really pretty girl across the room, and he wants to go ask her to dance. So as he starts to walk over there, what happens in his mind is he starts thinking about, what happens if she rejects me? What happens now? I'm going to have to walk all the way across the room. Everybody's going to see me. People will start laughing. And all of a sudden, there's Bobby over there on the other side of the room. And it's like, oh, I got to ask Bobby something. And then he goes over to ask Bobby as opposed to the girl.
Got it.
Because the mind perceives the girl as a lion.
Yeah.
She's going to attack me, right? She's going to hurt me. So the mind will then create a distraction to stay away from the pain.
Okay.
It's not trying to. So I always hear people say, "Oh, I sabotage myself. I
Yeah.
self-sabotage." I don't believe that's true at all.
Oh, okay. So
I
you would
believe
say
the
protecting
mind is
yourself.
is trying to protect you from pain, to stay
Okay.
away from the danger, because the mind won't
Yeah.
sabotage itself. It's always survival based.
Yes, I love
Why
that.
would it try to hurt you, right, when it's
Okay.
trying to save you?
Okay, so this makes sense when you think about your family relationships. If someone in your family is frustrated with you, it's not because they're trying to ruin a relationship. It's because in their minds, they're upset or trying to keep some other pain from happening. And so they're expressing themselves in a certain way.
Yes.
Is
The
that right?
fear of pain is so powerful that
Okay.
the mind will do anything to avoid it. So, I mean,
Okay.
so people who are in addiction, the first thing I say to them is, there's nothing wrong with you. Your mind had emotional pain and it was trying to stay away from the pain, to avoid the pain. When they take the
Yeah.
drug or alcohol, they stop for even temporarily the pain. They're blocking the mind from
Yes.
thinking about the pain. That's
Oh,
that's human behavior, right?
yes. Well,
So
and
I'm able. Make
sorry, go
sense?
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I always say to them is, you're not trying to sabotage yourself. You're not trying to ruin your family and trying to take ruin your job, your family. Your mind is so survival based, and survival is a in the moment situation. So it doesn't think about the consequences, because surviving now is more important than the consequences later, because I can deal with the consequences as long as I'm alive. So, right. So, when people were jumping out of the building at 9/11, people were
Yeah.
saying, oh, they were jumping to their deaths. I don't believe they were jumping to their deaths. I would think they were jumping to survive. They knew if they stayed even another second, they were going to instantly die.
Yeah.
So they would rather take the chance to avoid that pain, even if it's only temporary. Right? That's how powerful. Now, does it make sense to jump out of a building to try to stay alive? Not really. But when your alternative is, I die if I don't,
Yeah.
we may as well take the chance.
Okay. I mean, and this makes a lot of sense, because if someone doesn't want to look at bills or a pile, and they know that maybe there's an overdue bill in there and they're going to see it and they're going to feel stressed about it. Or if they know they're going to open a closet and they're going to see a whole bunch of art supplies they wish they had time to use, and they're going to feel upset that maybe they've missed out on all of these memories, or clearing out the baby clothes because they're not having any more babies and they're feeling stressed about that. I mean, there's a lot of pain that's hiding in our clutter. And I think in a business sense, a lot of times when people look at a task list or emails or their past calendar items and looking and seeing, oh, I forgot to follow up with this client, I forgot to send out this invoice, and they see all these things, they would prefer not to feel the pain of having to face it. So just kind of
exactly it.
Inaction. Yep. Okay.
It's all coming from fear, right?
Yes.
To survive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right? So I think we've covered this enough for right now for the podcast. I know in your program, you go into depth on this and you explain and help us really understand there's a lot of science behind this. This isn't just Dr. Wood making it up, right?
Right.
This is how our brains are working. And so I think what you're doing, though, is you're helping us not only to give ourselves more grace, but the people who are in our lives to understand their motives and understand where they're coming from, and not to see things as attacks on us in the workplace, in our families, in society, but instead to see, okay, why is this person behaving this way? What's the pain behind it? And then how can we work with that to move forward? Like, you're really empowering people, I think.
Yeah, because what it is everybody, puts a lot of shame and guilt on people who do things the way we don't like it, so people in addiction or people who are having issues, right? Well, shame and guilt are not very good ways to change behavior, right? It's really not fair, because here's what I always say to everybody, that you couldn't have possibly done it any other way based on what your life has experienced. Yeah. Because your mind uses experiences as resources to respond to the current situation. So if your mind says, oh, every time I did that, I got hurt, right? This is below your conscious awareness. Your mind will create a response to get you away from it. that says nothing about your character, willpower, strengths, or morals. It
Mm.
all comes down to survival and the mind trying to help you to survive. So if you couldn't have done it any other way, why would we make you feel guilty about it?
It took me a while to wrap my brain around that. When you talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, well, but Dr. Wood, of course, people could make other choices. I think they're just making a poor choice. And you took me through a whole exercise, like how I would pick out what shirt I wore that day, And I love that you emphasized, if I'm getting it right, something like it was genetics was one of the components. And then the other one, it was atmospheric conditions. Is that what you call
Right.
it?
Yep.
That there's something, your experiences, your beliefs, your values, what you've learned, your education level. I mean, there's all these things that affect your atmospheric conditions. And that's even helped me as a parent, because now when I'm watching my children make decisions, I'm thinking, okay, this is the logical decision they came up with based on what their expectations are, what they think the rules are. Like they're doing the best they can to make these decisions. What can I do to affect the atmospheric conditions so they're going to want to make a different choice that's going to feel safer to them? Is that logical? Am I going the right way here?
That's perfect. Yeah, because remember what I talked about is if I have a filter and I pour water through the filter, it's going to come out clear.
Yeah.
But if I put mud in the filter and I pour the water through the filter,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to come out muddy.
Yes.
So what's wrong with the water? There was nothing ever wrong with the water. It just filtered through the mud, which is your atmospheric conditions. So if you've been hurt a lot or experienced pain in a certain situation, doesn't it make sense that your mind would want to avoid that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And your mind does it automatically. So it's below your conscious awareness. Your mind is providing these options. That's why I said when you go to pick something out to wear, right? And you're saying, well, I'm choosing that. Well, why didn't you choose something you didn't know? Because it never would have occurred to you because your mind wouldn't have known you didn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But then there's someone like my husband who is so good at thinking out of the box, where I give myself these parameters like, oh, this is how it can be done, this or this. And my husband, the way that he thinks is, oh, no, there's like all these other options. But that's the way, I don't know if that's how he's trained his mind or that's just what he's learned how to do, is not to just give yourself one box, but to think in a different way.
Again, those are his atmospheric conditions.
Okay.
Right? So if I asked you a particular decision to make and you had no adverse experiences that would interfere with you making that decision, you could think outside the box.
Okay. I love
that. But if you had something where you got hurt when you made a decision like that, even as a child, right? Now your options are very limited because your mind's going to try to keep you away from it.
There's all this pain right here. This is the non-pain box.
And stay away from it. So I worked with a guy who and this was with the best of intentions. He had very loving parents, but his parents had always instilled in him, because this is the way they were bringing his family or him up in his family, is that you get a job, you get a pension, you buy a house, and you retire. Right? That was the model. That was what his parents did. But he was an entrepreneur. So what happened was he couldn't get his business off the ground. And he couldn't understand why. He had a good business model, and every time he started trying to get it done, he just couldn't get it done. Once he got to the understanding that it was the risk that he was avoiding, because his parents had taught him without really trying to, they didn't say this deliberately, but they were like, you don't take risks because you could lose everything.
Yeah.
So every time he got close to something that would look like a risk, I got to now maybe borrow some money to invest in equipment or sign a lease, for my building.
Yeah.
Right. He would try to figure out another way around it, so that, well, maybe I can meet somebody else who already has a place. I don't have to put money down. Maybe I can figure out a way to get equipment. Right. So every time he got close to risk, he would change his direction to try to create a new business model to avoid that. He didn't know that that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what he was doing. As soon as we got all that cleared up, he did $1 million worth of business in the next year.
Yeah.
And now he's doing about $4 million a year.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay. So clearly we're not going to be able to cover everything that you know in one podcast, but I want to jump into one strategy, because when I first started hearing you talk about this, part of me thought, okay, this makes total sense. But the other part thought, well, how do you get to the root of this type of thing? Because most of what I've learned in my life is how to manage anxiety, how to be able to take a stressful situation and then, think through it and figure out how to kind of get over it. But the problem was I was finding myself in cycles, and I would worry about the same thing over and over and over again and never quite get to the root. And you totally helped me start getting to the root. I don't think I'm 100% there, but in the one exercise that we went through in the group, that hasn't even been coming back at all to me. So I'm just going to explain briefly what my experience was, and then I would love for you to explain just how it works and why it works. Does that sound good? Okay.
Sure.
So basically, we were in a big group doing like a group setting where he was training us on how to do this with our brains. And Dr. Wood encouraged us to identify one stressful situation, something that we thought about a lot or something that brought pain. So I thought about something that I've been replaying in my mind for years, literally years. And, it wasn't that terrible, but it was taking, I would say, maybe 20 to 30% of my energy just worrying about this one thing. And it was shaping everything I was doing, just this one thing.
Yep.
So we went through and he basically had us take the memory and then divide it into 10 frames, like 10 picture frames. And then we went like 1 through 10. You're imagining each frame. It took me a little while to actually be able to memorize what all 10 were, but get the 10. We went 1 through 10. We did it a couple times. Then we went backwards. And then we went I think you did evens and then odds out of order. You kind of scrambled the memory. So now you're picturing it in a different way. And once we did that, it was not possible for me to go back and replay the experience and feel panic. Like I couldn't do it. Even if I tried, I would go back and try to remember how stressful it was. And it never came back. And it's been, I think, a week, 2 weeks now. And even though it's been 2 weeks, I used to wake up thinking about it. It would be stressful during the day. It would come back to me at different moments. Things would trigger my memory and I remember that and I'd go into panic. I mean, it was something that was really causing a problem for me.
Sure.
And now the only thoughts I have about it are, oh wait, I haven't even thought about that for 2 weeks. It's just, I don't think about it. Okay. So can you explain what happened, what we did and why that works?
Yeah. So basically what happened is when we have a disturbing or traumatic memory like that, it's stored in high definition, high resolution, because it was a threat to us. So what we do in that situation is once I get you into a very relaxed alpha brainwave state, which is, you remember we did an exercise right before, got you feeling very relaxed. When we then start bringing up that memory while you're in a relaxed state, and then we start to mix it up, the mind is able to reprocess it because it's not feeling the fear of it right now. So once it can finish it and resolve it, then it stores it back into a very low resolution file. That's why, and you'll never feel the response to that again. That's done because now it's being reprocessed. And so I always ask, somebody will say, what did you eat for dinner last night? Do you remember me asking the group that?
Yeah.
And then everybody would say, well, I ate whatever, right? So you just did it just
now. I looked up. So I know. I'm thinking back to what I ate.
So what did you eat for dinner last night?
I had salmon and vegetables.
Okay. So because last night wasn't threatening, it was stored as a fairly low resolution file, almost black and white, right? Yeah. Had that been disturbing, it would have been stored much brighter because all your senses are heightened. So if it stores that memory that intensely and your mind, your survival brain starts looking at it because something reminded you, you thought about it, or something looked like, sounded like it, it goes into that memory and then sees the intensity and thinks it's happening now. So it wants to protect you. So it's going to create a physiological response to get you to either go into fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
It's a glitch. It's an error message.
Yeah.
So what we're able to do is that memory was stored in a very high resolution beta brainwave state. When we keep you in alpha, responding to something from beta, it comes back in line and then is reprocessed into an alpha brainwave state where you're relaxed and focused, right? Yeah. There's no threat.
Yeah.
And so when we go into traditional therapy, we are basically talking about it over and over, learning to cope and manage and live with it. And so what that's doing is keeping it in the same state that it was, trying to get us to be used to living in that state when we think about that.
Yeah.
And what I said is I'd rather eliminate it.
Yes.
I don't want to learn to live with it, right? I wanted to eliminate the effects of it because it's an error message. It's a glitch. The mind keeps thinking something's happening.
I love how you taught me about that. I love the idea of an error message. Like that makes sense, that you're kind of making something up. Your mind is thinking something. But I thought the other thing that was really powerful about that is you're not only teaching people then how to have that pertain to one experience, but you're basically saying once you create a pattern and teach your brain how to do that, your brain will apply it to anything traumatic in the past. Is that right?
Yes. So once we do 2 or 3 of them, the mind will then start applying what it just learned to all that information. And it's amazing. So people who have had multiple, events, once we've cleared 3, generally the mind is going to pretty much do it with everything else. It's very rare if it doesn't pick up everything. And so it's very, very gentle. And basically when you start to go to sleep at night, you go into a theta brainwave state. And that's when your mind is processing.
Yeah.
And once it processes it, and then the audios are the next thing.
Okay.
Because we're dealing with 2 memory systems. We're dealing with the implicit memory, all the detail, right? The colors, the images, the pictures. And that memory system that's what we fix first. Mm-hmm. But then the mind has developed a pattern or a code on how to respond to it. So our brain is basically teaching us to live and manage with it. Mm-hmm. But we don't want that code coming back. So we want to make sure that code, so when you're just saying you just about finished it, the audios will finish it for you.
Okay, that's what I need. That's where I am right now. Well, and that's what I would kind of like to just kind of finish up with as far as our last topic we'll talk about on today's podcast is once you've learned how to, or once you've gone through these exercises and you're teaching your brain that past trauma is not present trauma and you're helping yourself to understand what's real right now and what is it my brain is just making up that's present right now, then how do we become really good at working in the moment? That's what I want to understand, because what I'm finding, and I mean, to be totally honest with you, I'm kind of like I don't know, I wouldn't call myself like a high anxiety person, but I really care about things. I'm very responsible. I really want a strong family. I'm highly motivated. I put myself in the middle a lot and think, oh, I could solve that. I kind of take the world on my shoulders and I feel like it's my job to solve everyone's problems. Right. And that's really, and when someone's upset with me, I'm, oh, why are they upset with me? How can I fix that? And I've been very much been a people pleaser for most of my life. And I kind of have a pit in my stomach a lot because I'm trying to respond. And working from home with my husband, having 4 children, being involved in a huge community online, there are so many inputs and my brain is switching and leading and taking part in so many activities that I have a hard time. Like you said, Einstein just lived in like the alpha brains. He was just always like calm and focused. I'm not calm and focused. So what would you recommend for me?
So that's that flow state.
Okay.
So what we want to be is we want to be in flow. What's been the issue with being able to get into flow state before is all this old data that keeps looping. It's stopping you from getting into that flow state.
Yeah.
So that's what we clear out first.
Okay.
Then the audios are designed to start now focusing on new patterns. And so, for example, like I said, if you walked every day 2 miles to get food, but every day you walked that, you had to deal with snipers and landmines, right? But every day you got there and back and you survived. And then somebody says, April, there's a really great grocery store down the street, 100 yards, it's really well lit. Why aren't you going to that store? Your mind wouldn't want to go there yet because you haven't shown it that it's safe.
Oh,
so your mind will stay in its old patterns, even though it may not be now activated by the memory. It's a pattern that your mind had developed, right?
Because I think that my my worry and my hypervigilance is what's gotten me successful in the past. I think that I attribute anything that I've done well, it's because like I really cared and I put my heart into it and I was, watching for threats and I was really working hard at it. And I think I'm afraid to leave that pattern and just like relax because I'm afraid I'm going to be letting someone down or opening myself up to some kind of a threat that I have no evidence exists.
Yeah. So there's your atmospheric conditions, right?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
built that pattern over many, many years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we say, well, no, April, there's just another really great way to do it down this way.
Yeah.
Your mind will keep wanting to go down those 2 miles until you prove to it that it's safer.
Yeah.
So that's what the audios are designed. Let's focus on making change.
Yeah.
What other changes do you want to make in those old patterns and behaviors? Because now they're not being activated by the memory system anymore, but they're being activated. They can be activated, but they'll be lighter because now it's just a code, right? So it's not coming with the intensity anymore. It's just like, what did we used to do when we had that situation? Oh, yeah, I used to do this, right? You won't feel the emotion with it, but you'll want to follow the pattern.
Right.
Right? So what we have to do is now focus on a new pattern. So one of the things you'll listen to in the audios, and this is a great example, is I don't know if you remember the story about Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister is the first human to break the 4-minute mile.
Oh, yeah.
And so what happened is that the world, everybody in the world knew that it was impossible, that the human body could not run a 4-minute mile. Doctors had said it should be avoided because the heart will explode. So if everybody believes that, and there's no possible way to do that, right? Nobody could break it, right? Because we're going to avoid danger and death.
Yes.
So what Roger Bannister did is said, okay, I know I won't be able to, he tried to break it. So he said, the way I've got to break it is I've got to run a 1/4 mile in less than a minute and learn what that pace was.
Okay.
So he developed that pace first. And then he worked on a 1/2 mile, and then he worked on a 3/4 mile, and then he worked on the mile, and then he broke it.
Okay.
Had he tried to break it all at once, his mind would have put up too much resistance and would have shut him down.
So like baby steps?
Baby steps. So if you want to change the way that you're doing something, repetition is like research for the brain. If you keep repeating something, the mind is using that as saying, okay, we've made it this far, so let's walk 10 yards down that road. Let's walk 20 yards down that road. And eventually we get to 100, the mind goes, well, this is actually a lot better, a lot less stressful, right?
Yeah.
Then that becomes the dominant code. And the only way to do that is to practice it and repeat it. And then that's what the audios are designed to sort of give the idea that we can make changes. Let's just focus on the change. But if you focus on what you've always been doing, that feels very, very safe, even though it may not be safe.
Even though it's not pleasant to live.
Right.
It feels safe.
It's comfortable. So, you know, if you've walked with a sprained ankle for 20 years and then you come in and we reset your ankle, we fix it, right? All of a sudden somebody will say, oh, April, you're not limping. And you'll go, oh, I used to limp? I don't even remember limping, right?
Yeah.
Because it became very common to you. So you don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That's the unconscious mind doing something and programming something for you. So the idea is you want to fix something, change something, let's create a new way. So one of the things I always say is when you're listening to the audio, start doing things differently. Take a different route to the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take different roads to go to work, to go to the grocery store. Brush your teeth with your left hand, right? Use your left hand if you're right-handed, use your left hand to stir your drink. Because what you're doing is you're telling your mind, oh, look at all these little things we're changing, right?
Okay.
It feels very safe to then start working on the bigger stuff too. Change becomes very, very familiar.
Okay, it's so interesting, like all these just little things, because the exercises we were doing and as you were taking us through, it didn't take that long even. It wasn't like we had to spend hours and hours going through all these long manuals or anything. It was actually pretty quick. And what you're even talking about right now, they're just these little changes. But from what I'm understanding, those little changes are enough to make massive change in how your brain structures itself.
Huge changes. So I'll give you another example. Is I bought, this is about 3 years ago, I bought some new golf clubs. And the pro said to me, he says, well, you get a free lesson with the clubs. So I said, okay, I'll take the lesson. So he videotaped me during the lesson and he said, I like your swing. It looks really good. I've got one little change that I would recommend. Do you want to hear it? And I said, okay. And he says, I notice every once in a while that you drop your left shoulder on the takeaway. He says, but you're a good athlete and you generally get it corrected. He says, but you notice every once in a while you hit the ball a little heavy, like hit the dirt before the ball. And I said, yeah, that's sometimes. He says, because you didn't get it corrected. He says, so whenever I saw that little thing, he says, most of the time you're getting it corrected. So he says, so focus on doing that. So now I've got to use my conscious mind to make a new repetitive pattern so that my subconscious mind codes it.
Yeah.
So I went out with my friend on the weekend. I told him, I'm not scoring today. I'm just going to practice my new swing. And so I noticed as we're going along, he's marking my scores down because he wants to win. He wants to beat me, right? And I said to him, I said, Jim, are you writing my scores down? And he goes, well, I'm just sort of keeping track, right? And I said, don't do that, because if my mind feels threatened that I'm going to lose, it's going to go back to the old swing. It won't allow me to make the change. Right? That's how our minds work. And so, I use sports a lot, and a lot of times you'll see that in golf. They'll say a guy was working on a new swing, and then when he got down to the final round, the final hole, all of a sudden he went back to an old way that he used to do something. And he didn't even realize he did it.
Yeah. Okay. And that's something. So is that a pattern? And I'm not trying to make this all about me, but I'm hoping that people who are listening, a lot of times I realize they go through the same things I go through. So when I can talk about my experience, people are like, oh yeah, I totally go through that too. I feel like I've lived in fear for a long time. And I don't even know what the fear is about. Like, it's so funny. My husband and I will sit down, because I was telling you before we started recording, my husband's more like you. He's very good at just kind of moving along, not getting worried about things. Like, he doesn't stress. He does great. I feel like I compensate. I'll carry all of it, But I feel like, but one of the things he said to me is, he's like, April, I think even once we solve this specific problem that you're thinking about, you're going to find something else to stress about, because you feel like you need to be stressed. You feel like this just needs to be a part of who you are. And I agree. I feel like there's some part of me that believes that if I'm calm, that I'm not protecting myself. And and so I feel like I don't have an incentive to feel calm. And that's why I feel like I've become so good at organizing and calendaring and projects and tasks and keeping my house clean, because I'm so bad at handling my stress, I've had to compensate to find ways to make everything else feel safe so I can function. So in some ways I feel like, because I don't handle stress super well, I'm really good at creating order and peace visually and in my home, and I'm very responsible. But I really want to get rid of this constant worry for no reason. So there's hope for that. You're telling me?
100%. Because here's the question I'm going to ask you, right? Are you still able to be organized if you're not stressed?
Well, and this is kind of like the question you asked me, where you said, is it okay for you to be okay? Right. And I would say yes. I mean, it sounds dumb to think like, no, only stressed out people can be organized, because I don't believe that. But I feel like there's just something in how my brain processes things that, like, from the minute I wake up in the morning, I'm like scanning my environment to see, is there anything I need to be afraid of today? Even though rarely is there. That's kind of where I am.
So what you've done is you've taught your brain that in order to get organized, you have to be stressed.
Yes.
That the stress created the organization.
And the productivity and the happy family and like everything. I feel like the stress has been the impetus for like everything good.
Right. Which is not true. In fact, it's actually interfering with your ability to be better organized.
Yes.
I worked with a professional golfer, and this is in my book. And I said to him, do you think you need to be confident to play good golf? And he said, well, yes. And I said, what if I told you you didn't need to be confident to play good golf? And he said, well, is confidence bad for me? I said, no, but you're putting it in front of, I said, you have a skill. If you put confidence in front of your skill, that I need to be confident to execute my skill, I'll guarantee you your confidence will crumble at some point because you build it on a foundation that can't hold it.
Yeah.
Right? I said, but if you build your skill, your confidence is a byproduct of your skill.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? So you have a skill. You don't need stress to execute your skill.
Right.
But you've done the same thing. You've put, when I'm really stressed out, that's what made me a great organizer. When in fact, you're a great organizer, right? That didn't need to be stressed.
Yeah. And I think it's because a lot of times what we become good at is a result of a problem we were experiencing. Like you even telling me the reason you went into all of this learning about neuroscience, learning about how, our brains are working is because you had some challenges with some of your family members that you were trying to solve, right? Like you were in a problem and you're like, oh, I'm going to go forward and figure out how to fix this. And I think because I was in a problem where I was going through a lot of stress and I had to get creative and figure out how to overcome it, I've kind of linked the two instead.
You got it. It's exactly it. It's an error message.
Yeah.
They're not connected.
It's correlated.
Yeah, but it's not, right?
Yeah, okay.
It's just, it was a way for you to figure out that you had a skill and you executed your skill, right?
Now I can keep the skill, but I can leave that stress that caused it behind.
Yes, you don't need that. See, a lot of times I was at the Spartan leadership games and I had somebody tell me, right, that those butterflies that you get before you compete are good for you. And I said to him, tell me how they would be good for you.
Yeah.
He says, well, that's that nervous energy. And I said, it's burning energy? Why would you want to burn energy, right before your competition?
Yeah.
He had never thought about it that way, but we're trained to believe that, those nerves are good for us. That feeling is really good. It gets us alert and motivated. I say nonsense. Right? We're much more productive when we're in that flow state. So Tim Burke, our long drive guy, that's what he said. I've never been so calm playing golf. And it's translated into his personal life. He's so much calmer around the house, so much calmer around his wife and child.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and that's what I've been telling you, because some of the struggles that I've been having just personally and other stuff going on, I'm like, I'm going to hold off. I'm not even going to talk about them for a while because I want to solve my own stress response and see if I've been actually causing the problems with my stress response, that maybe the problems aren't so bad, but that I'm building them up in my head or doing something to make it worse.
So those tools that we gave you, right, to practice, right, your symbol, your statement, your anchor, will calm all that down. Then that will become the new way for you to operate, right? And you just got to practice it. So how nervous do you want your neurosurgeon operating on your brain?
Not.
At all, right?
No.
So
I don't want nervous energy going into my brain surgery.
Your stress, right, is the same thing as having your neurosurgeon stressed, right? You don't want that, right? How much better are you without the stress?
Yeah, so much better.
Way better.
So can you maybe explain our vision, kind of as we're getting ready to close? What's the vision? Like if you think about the people that you've worked with, all these people that you've already taken through your course, and now you have an online version so that all of us can go through it, even if we don't live in your area. What's the vision that we could hope for? Just maybe describe a morning. Like what would it look like? I mean, as far as going from maybe where I am right now, or maybe a lot of people in our community are even at a higher intensity of stress where they're like, they don't even want to approach their lives. They don't want to deal with it. And they're feeling depressed. They want to stay in bed. They're overwhelmed. They're anxious. They're discouraged. There's just, maybe self-medicating either with, alcohol or drugs or TV or social media or something like that. But people who might be in that stage where they don't want to approach their lives, what's the alternative? What's the vision that is a potential or is a possibility? How would you describe that?
So what I usually say is when I sit down with somebody, and you'll see it on the online, or if I work with you one-on-one or even in the group, if you remember what I said is I have a target, a vision for everybody. And the vision is to see you with your mind updated, rebooted, refreshed, and adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
When we do that, then the mind operates clear, calm, peaceful, with understanding. And when it operates like that, it changes the way it produces thoughts. Then thoughts become beneficial, appealing, and possible.
Okay.
With 100% of your energy available in the moment, fully present. That's life-changing.
Oh, totally.
When you can do that, right?
So
but everybody's possible to do it.
Okay. So like so I'm going to explain my ideal and you tell me if this is correct what you're saying, is
Okay.
that I could wake up in the morning with zero fear or panic and just wake up and be able to get up and move forward in my day and be thinking about what I'm excited about and just be breathing and calm and be able to respond to challenges and issues, which are going to come because we're in a world that has challenges and issues, but they wouldn't feel scary to me. I would just be able to look at the situation and be able to respond appropriately and feel a sense of progress and peace and completion and just feel good throughout the day, and then go to bed at the end of the day feeling calm and good and ready for the next day.
Sure. That's fully present. You just described fully present.
Yeah,
The
that's the best I
zebra
want.
can, yeah, the zebra can't feel fear of the lion unless the lion is present. So
Mm-hmm.
the zebra wakes up peaceful, right? Spends its day peaceful. If a lion shows up, it's either going to run, right, or freeze. Probably not going to fight, right? Once the danger is over, zebra goes back to eating, mating, taking care of its babies,
But
which
the
is
danger
exactly the
won't
way.
feel that hard. It,
No. Well,
that's
also
good.
too, because once we clear all that trauma, you used to exaggerate the threat.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody said something to you that sounded threatening, maybe it sounded disrespectful,
Yeah.
right? So they said something that sounded disrespectful. It wasn't what they just said that creates the over response. It's
Yeah.
all the old data about every time you'd been disrespected that comes flooding in
From anyone.
from anyone throughout your entire life. And that's where then the overreaction happens.
Yeah.
So if somebody says something that is disrespectful and you don't have this other flood from all that old times that you've been disrespected, you could then respond with, I'm sorry, can you help me understand what you meant by that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understood what you just said,
Yeah.
right? And then that maybe gives them a chance to reframe it.
And do you find that it's easy for you to understand and be gracious with people who are overreacting because of their past trauma?
Oh, yeah.
Like you get
It's really made a huge difference. Like I said, before I really studied this, I could be just as judgmental as other people, sort of saying, what's wrong with that person? Why don't they just get their act together, get over it, right?
Okay.
Even with my own wife at times, because I would say, I just don't understand why you're not just happy, right? Right? Like, we've got a great life, you've got 3 children, right? Why aren't you just experiencing what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
She couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was impossible for her to do because her mind continued to filter through all her experiences. It was creating that inability to get to center, right? Once you can do that and you can stay at center, life completely changes. And life's going to keep coming at us. Like I said, I was very lucky. I had this idyllic childhood. I got bumped off a center every once in a while, but nothing big, right?
Yeah.
So many people have lived their lives. Like I said, I really realized that it was an anomaly for me. Not many people had that kind of an experience.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate to. So once I understood that other people weren't, right, I have a lot more compassion for them, because that's why I said they couldn't have not done it.
Yeah.
Based on the way if I lived your life, April, exactly the way you lived your life, or your husband lived your life exactly the way you lived his or yours, he couldn't do it any differently than you can. It's just the way the mind responds to its environment. It's designed to respond to its environment. Because we have memory, those memories become part of our everyday present environment.
Yeah.
If I don't have that traumatic memory or disturbing memory, doesn't it make sense that my mind's going to produce a different set of thoughts?
Right. And that's why I'm so excited to complete your course and to go listen to these audios and do this, because essentially that's going to help change my atmospheric conditions, right?
Exactly.
Because now I'm going to have a new training. I'm going to create new scripts, new rules, new things to consider. So then when my brain starts to go and want to go back to its old ways, it's actually going to have a new path that's better that's going to start taking.
A new neural pathway, right? And it won't be being triggered by the old memories anymore.
Yeah.
So we got to work on the 2 memory systems: implicit detailed memory and then procedural programmed memory.
Oh my
and
gosh.
That's why we do the 2.
I love this so much. And I know it might seem kind of weird, even maybe to our community who's thinking, didn't we just come to learn how to like clean up our office? Why are we talking about like trauma and the brain and all these things? But really, like, it's so linked together. This is.
I look like Mr. Clean.
Yeah. The reason I was so excited to introduce you to our community is because we're working towards a similar goal of feeling peaceful and calm and having our mental state match our physical environment. And so as I can teach people, here's a process for all the papers and tasks and projects that are coming in. It's a new way for your brain to think about it. Instead of saying, this is painful and it needs to sit in a pile, okay, here's the questions I'm going to ask about it. Here's where it belongs. And then you have a way to process everything so it doesn't go into a pile. Then you're helping us from the whole how your brain is working to know how to take the stress and the trauma and knowing where to put that and how to process it so that you have optimal performance. I think when you learn how to do both of those things, you're just working from different angles, but you're going to end up feeling calm and working at your peak performance and having an environment that feels really good and supports you in that. So it works really well going together.
Yeah, no, it's perfect because, if you're doing those things like you talked about, I got my second book coming out saying the 10 things that successful people never do, right? One of them is procrastination. But if you do procrastinate, there's a reason why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? It has nothing to do with your character or ethics or strengths.
No.
It has to do with your mind doing something to respond to some pain earlier in your life.
Yeah.
Once you fix that, then you can then work on the procrastination.
Love it. This is awesome. Okay. So we're going to have a link to your program on our show notes page. I am thrilled about your new book. So when that's coming out, consider me on your launch team, and I'm here to help. Super excited to get that out.
I'm going to call it emotional concussions.
Oh my gosh, so good, so good.
Rather than trauma, right? We all have emotional concussions, right?
Yes.
But the great part about concussions heal.
Yes, I love it. I love the work you're doing, and I'm already benefiting from it, and I cannot wait to jump into your course. So anyone listening who wants to go through the course with me, we can all heal together. We're going to be performing so optimally. It's going to be amazing what we're going to be able to accomplish without even feeling stressed out. So thank you so much,
great.
Dr. Wood.
Oh, it was great meeting you, and I'm glad to have you on our team.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm back. We've now fast forwarded 3 months. I hope that you loved the interview, and I hope that you started to get excited thinking about what is possible. I will tell you, this is not only working for me. This is something that is having an amazing impact on so many people. Now, I rarely recommend other programs, only ones that I've actually been inside and that I've used and that I can tell you make a difference. His program is an investment. I would not recommend that you get the program unless you're serious about actually going through it. I made this my current project. So in our Steps to Everyday Productivity program, we teach people how to make a current projects list. I have usually 2 to 3 current projects in the For Me category. This was one of them. It was go through Dr. Wood's program. And I had it on my projects list for 3 months because this was my highest priority. The audios that he has, and it's like 28 days of audios, I kept listening to them while I was falling asleep at night, and they're super calming. So I listened to them over and over and over again to make sure I got the whole thing. So it took me a little bit longer, but I will say I saw results pretty much immediately. And then the more I've listened over and over and over again, I have trained my brain not to feel overwhelmed. He's helped me to have this reboot, how you do a reset, how you train your brain to apply what you do to overcome one traumatic event, to overcome all traumatic events. I've even had one of my children start going through it because this particular child is feeling anxious and replaying traumatic events. It's awesome. Even my husband has noticed a huge difference. And he's like, okay, April, every time we meet someone who's anxious or depressed or struggling with something, he's like, you should tell him about Dr. Wood's program because he can see what a difference it's made for me. And he's like, April, we need to help other people to know that there are resources because I know that there's a lot going on out there. And I know there are so many people struggling with anxiety and depression. Our local university can't even keep up. There was a friend of ours who had a friend who was a university student, really depressed, not doing well. So this friend of mine was trying to get the student an appointment at the local counseling center at the university. They said, oh, sure, we can set this person up with an appointment in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I mean, if you're stressed out or you're depressed or you're anxious or you're going through something that's really hard, you can't wait for 2 weeks. You need relief immediately. But it is often so hard to get appointments with specialists who can help you. And then what I find as well is so many people think something is wrong with them. They're like, something's just off with my brain. I'm broken. I'm not well, right? What I love that Dr. Wood has taught me is he said, there is nothing wrong with your brain. Your brain is responding in a way that is appropriate in order to feel safe. We're going to help you to reboot your brain and help you to move forward in a way that will give you that inspired performance, that optimal ability to be able to live your mission, to take care of your family. I have met with Dr. Wood in person at this event. I've gone through his full program. I love to shout things from the rooftops when I experience it and know how awesome it is. So I will just tell you, if you are in that spot where you're anxious or you're depressed or you're reeling from something traumatic that's happened to you recently, whether it was something that happened with a loved one, whether it was some catastrophe that happened in your life, whether it was loss, we get it. All of us are going through something that is hard. And the thing is, what I found at Learn, Do, Become is so many of our community members who come to us because they have a messy desk or because they have clutter, there's actually something deeper going on. Now, I can help you get rid of the clutter. I can help you clean your closet. I can help you get your calendar all squared away. I can help you to have no piles of stuff anywhere in your house. What I'm not an expert on is how your brain actually processes information, and Dr. Wood is. So the more I talked with him, I sat by him at the big lunch we had. I said, I just need to sit by you because we need to talk because I think what we do actually works really well together. So come to our show notes page, learndobecome.com/episode 79. So EPISODE episode 79. It's going to be amazing. You can come check out more information I'll have. We have a special link that you can access Dr. Wood's program if this is the right thing for you. I am just telling you, it's changed my life. And now as I'm going to conferences and my vision is growing and I'm learning all these new things, I feel like my brain is in a place where I can move forward powerfully. And that's what I want for you too. Each one of us has a very unique mission. I believe that 100%. And whether your unique mission is, behind a microphone like mine is right now, or whether it's inside your family or inside a position at work or all of the above, right? You need to have that support and mental health in order to move forward. And it breaks my heart when I see people who are stifling that creative energy and stifling their ability and their skills and all that they have to offer because they think that something is broken inside of them and they think that they don't have what it takes. I don't believe that. And I am so grateful for Dr. Wood, for what he's taught me. Honestly, you're gonna love it. So, okay, hopefully you love the podcast. You can go back and listen again. I already listened to it twice because I had to lock in all the things he was teaching me. But then all of his audios, you need to experience it for yourself. Okay, so come check it out, learndobecome.com/episode 79. Have an amazing day. And if you are new to Learn, Do, Become, and you're thinking, what do you guys do? How do you help me get rid of all this clutter? Our class is at learndobecome.com/step. Hey, love you. Have a great day.